Hello everyone, Stephanie Davis here today. Today I'm sharing a design team project for the Not Too Shabby shop, and you can see the 10% off coupon right there on the screen. Today I'm creating a card with the Wild Roses stamp set from Waffle. I think this is a gorgeous, timeless stamp set, and I thought it would be really great to do some no-line watercoloring. So I'm going to use my Ink on 3 Fadeout ink to stamp out my images. And this is my favorite ink to do no-line coloring. I'm going to be watercoloring these with my Daniel Smith watercolors. This is my palette of all the colors I chose for summer, because when I filmed this it was still summer. Now I'm all ready for fall. So I will have all the colors listed below, but I'm going to start off with Quinacridone Lilac as my main color to paint these roses. And what I do is I start off with the deepest color and the inside where I think the shadows would be, and then I rinse out my brush and get almost all of the color out, and then I go back with a damp brush, not too wet, just a little wet. You can see me wiping it off on my microfiber cloth there, but I go back and I just go back to meet that color in the inside and let the paper do the work and let it kind of bleed out and blend together. And this is why I find this so relaxing, because it's just kind of a gentle way to paint, if that makes sense. So I'll just keep doing this over and over again. I'm trying to let this be really slow so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing, and then I will speed it up so you don't get bored later. Now I'm going to begin the second petal, and I'm going to do the same thing. First I'm going to apply the first layer kind of dark, and then I will go and rinse my brush and bring it back with just the tiniest bit of color and blend all that out. When the damp brush meets the color, it just blends together because of the paper. Today I'm using B paper, which I think is a step up from Hansa. It's not as good as Arches, but I think it's really good if you're beginning. If you've tried watercoloring before and you didn't like your results, I really recommend you try it with some better quality watercolor paper before you give up. And some people find watercoloring a lot of fun, like I do. I thoroughly enjoy it. And then some people find it frustrating. And so you don't want it to frustrate you. If it frustrates you, just use markers. There's so many mediums you can use. I don't think crafting should be frustrating. So maybe take a break. But if you haven't tried better paper before you think it's you should probably try some better paper. Here I'm gonna go back and add another layer, and none of this is completely dry, so that's why I'll go in and be able to add a second layer. And I just like to keep going in layers and add a bit more color, and I pretty much do the same thing without, I'm still trying to keep that highlighted area really light and just add layers basically to the inside where I think the shadows would be. I think this gives a lot of depth and interest, and I think it looks really pretty. And I just make sure and try not to have any harsh lines, because I don't like the look when you can see the harsh lines of where the watercolor ends and the paint dries and leaves harsh edges. I don't really like that look. So then I'll go in and add just a little bit of detail at the very bottom of the petal, where I think there would be fold. And then here I'm actually removing some of the color. I added a little too much color, so I had to go and remove it. Now I'm going to start watercoloring the leaf, and I'm just going to do really quick. I'm kind of actually being sloppy, but I'm using Serpentine Genuine, which is a lovely light green shade, and then I will go and add some sap green, which is in front of me. It wasn't in my palette, I had to grab it. It will be in my fall palette. So I started adding some of the green Apatite Genuine to add more colors, and then I'll go back and blend it out to make it look nicer. And I do the same with the leaves, and if I have a little mistake, I take a clean brush and then I use my microfiber cloth to kind of absorb the color and erase it a bit. I'm adding a teeny bit of Pyrrol Scarlet, and then I'm going to do this little bud with a Quinacridone Lilac. Now that the flower petals have dried, I can go and start my fourth petal, And I'll do the same technique where I just go in, and I'm being a little lazier this time so it's quicker, and I've sped it up a bit, but hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. It's a very simple process. Once I started trying this, I really got hooked, and it's one of my favorite ways to paint now. I always try to switch it up a little because I don't want to bore you guys. I don't want to do only watercoloring, only no line coloring, but I am finding just in my spare time, just for fun, I'm doing a lot of this in my craft room. So I'll go and drop some more color, and I'll just go in and add where I think the folds would be, a little at the end of the petals. And I just think it adds a little bit of interest, and I really like the way that looks. I'll use a clean, barely damp brush to go back and blend all that out. Here I'm actually removing color by using a damp brush to lift some of the color away. And then now I'm on the last petal, and I'll do the same exact thing, just going around a bit so you can tell the difference where one petal starts and one ends. Now I'll go in and add another layer, and I think this is what I like to do. It's hard to know when to quit, but it's really nice to go in and add layer after layer. Now I'll use some Hansa yellow medium to do the inside of the flower, and I will go back with colored pencil because I actually messed it up, and I don't actually wind up using this petal that I'm painting on camera. It was too big for the arrangement that I wanted to make. Now I'm doing the splatters. I'm doing my usual white, black, and gold splatters that I like to do. I'm just going to use a teeny bit of black because I wanted it to be really small splatters actually. But I think I've decided why I love splatters so much is it kind of distracts your eye from if you make any mistakes. So now I'll go in with some watercolor pencils, which I love to do, and you can just use regular colored pencils, but I tend to like the watercolored pencils because then if I get a little too heavy-handed, I can go back and use water to blend out the pigment. I'll also go in with a really fine black detail pen and add more detail, especially in the center where the stamens would be. I'm going to go ahead and stamp out my sentiment, and this is from the Waffle Flower Bouquet Builder 2 stamp set. I'll stamp out my sentiment and some VersaFine ink, and then I'm going to use these little berries. This is from the Honeybee Stamp Spring Peony stamp set. I really just wanted to add some orange really. So I thought it'd be nice to add these little berries. And because this is such a small, fine line, I thought it would be much easier just to use my watercolor pencils. So I'm just drawing in these really quickly, and I'm gonna blend out the color really quickly. And I don't think it really makes any difference if you use regular watercolors. I just thought since it was so fine, it would be easier for me to stay in the lines to use the pencils. I'll add more splatters, and I'm just using gold and black this time. And then I'll start building my arrangement using some foam tape on some of the flowers, and then some of the leaves, I just added adhesive to the back. So I'll go ahead and add adhesive to the back of these flowers. Use the coordinating dies to die cut all of these out, and then I'll just build my arrangement. And I do fuss a little bit because I can't to figure out exactly how I like it, and I just add some foam tape to pop some of them up and give it a little more interest. After I get my arrangement all set how I like it, I'll go ahead and mount this on a card base using some strong adhesive. And then I do go ahead and see I have a few oopsies where I think my die cutting machine had some paint that wasn't dry yet, so I have to use the little sand eraser to get rid of those little marks. And then I'll also go in with a black pen I don't like any gold to be on the sentiment. So I thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.